How's it going? And welcome back to another episode of Geek Era Podcast. And with us for the time being, we have our co-host. You want to introduce yourself again, man?
Hello, I'm What If Universe. I explore infinite possibilities, and I decided to change the theme of this podcast slightly to a torturous mess where basically we're just watching stuff to emulate real life with the current pandemic, so now we get to suffer internally as well.
Yeah, and we have a special guest with us, sharing the pain. You want to introduce yourself, man?
Hello, my name is Shonen Ouji. I do discussion and analysis videos on shonen manga. Most typically, it's One Piece, although today I just came out with a video why you should read the Dr. Stone manga. So if you have time later, go ahead and check that out. But right now, we are talking Captain Harlock.
Captain Harlock, 2013. Probably one of the biggest, most epic franchises Shonen Jump has had. One of Studio Toei's biggest properties in Japan. That it's inspired a lot of stuff over the years. And 2013's version of Captain Harlock is different, to say the least. You guys want to start off the sort of discussion? What's the story about?
Yeah, so for clarification, this is like an alternate universe type of thing. Something that I would have done, I guess, but it's in movie form. So the movie's kind of about this kid who's like a spy and basically goes on Captain Harlock's ship. He messes around basically for most of the film, and that's sort of what the movie is. I think that's the best way to summarize it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that. This is kind of the biggest problem I think the Captain Harlock film has, where the story is barely existing.
Yeah, well, it's like, let's actually talk a bit about the story. So what's interesting is like there's this thing called the Homecoming War, which is brought up in the beginning of the film, and two sides basically fought over the planet Earth so mankind could go back or not. So that's like, okay, you have something that you're going for. And eventually this Gaia coalition, basically they emerge and basically made Earth sanctuaries, that way nobody could come back. And this is actually going to be important later when we talk about this, where we find out in the movie that they want to make a weapon to destroy Earth, apparently. So we'll talk about that when we get further in. But that's all you need to know, at least from the beginning parts. It's like a drag. It's worse than the Star Wars, like text crawls, in my opinion.
I think text crawls would have actually improved it, because then we're only going through a minute of backstory instead of numerous flashbacks.
I believe we went through at least like 3 minutes worth of just the text things explaining the opening of the movie, which it could have been done quicker with like a flashback.
I think this is one of the problems the film, one of the first big problems the kind of the film comes across. The original Captain Harlock is this giant ongoing, it was an ongoing series for years, and trying to put that into a 2-hour film, and yes, this is a 2-hour film, is a very difficult thing. And compared to like Battle Angel Alita or whatever it is, where they just take one part of it, like the introduction part, and turn that into it, they decided to try to compact 2 or 3 seasons worth of episodes into one giant thing.
Yeah, so with the opening, it's basically like just starting the movie's a drag, which is nuts, honestly.
What do you think?
I didn't think the beginning of the movie was necessarily like god awful. Is it like the smartest idea to always start your movies or your stories with just like barfing out the story. Not necessarily. It's like it did give context. I do appreciate that it gave the context, because aside from the context they give in like the first few minutes, the story was like coherent enough to like do like a very shallow book report on. But for the most part, I didn't know who any of the characters were other than Captain Harlock. I didn't feel any connection to any of the characters, and for the most part, I was just like, "Wait, why are we here now?" So, I guess other than the context, the story was like you guys are saying, kind of a mess.
Yeah, like I know one of the things that they have the young character who's supposed to be sort of the reflection of the audience. Like you're trying to get into the mind frame of Harlock and his crew, and I can understand that. That's used a lot in Japanese TV and films over years. They used to be like there was a term in it, but it's essentially like I've heard people refer to it as the Timmy in like kaijo films, where it's like they have the young kid and he's able to interact with Godzilla or something like that, and the kid who's being the spy. Why is he being the spy? I know he caused some damage to his brother.
Yeah, it was brought up in the film that he volunteered because of his brother. So that element I thought was explained okay. Like you kind of miss it if you miss it, but to go back
Yeah,
to the
see,
beginning
I
of
didn't
the
know
film,
if they were related or it was just the fact that they used the same character model because the faces look exactly the same.
no, they're related. It's explained in the film. My main issue with the beginning part is like, do you remember like the bar scene that we see like in the beginning?
Yeah.
Like we literally could have had one character just explain like for 3 minutes like all the beginning stuff, and he could just be like reflecting like on the war or something, just be like a random old dude. That would have been way better than the text I had to read for like 3 minutes, basically. It just felt like a drag, you know? Like I can't get over that one section. That's just me.
I know for me, a lot of the characters they're kind of forgettable. There's not like none of them really have their moments that kind of stick in. The only one would be like the engineer guy, who's like the ship's gonna blow up, and they just he kind of stops like, "Whoa, flower." That's the only quote I could remember from that film.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the characters. I think part of the problem, and I don't know if this was a problem in the manga either, the source material, it seemed like Harlock was just kind of grabbing whoever for his crew. So then it's really hard to feel invested because it's Harlock, this like NPC, like teenage boy main character that like you really don't, nothing stands out about him. And then a bunch of nobodies that you really have no idea. Like they don't even know why they joined on the ship. They're just like, I don't know, there's guns here. It'll be fun. So
I mean, there's a few minor characters like the chubby fat mechanic dude and the
yeah,
fan service girl, but that's the only two other relevant like members of his crew that I think are important throughout the whole film.
See,
Which is
that's
bad.
kind of the major difference. Like in the series, and this series is old. It's from the 70s. The characters, all the characters are kind of fleshed out. They all have their kind of quirks. I couldn't remember any of the names of the characters of this thing.
yeah, exactly.
I think another issue that I have is that the only character, in my opinion, who has a clear motive is Harlock. Like, even the spy character who we're supposed to be with doesn't really have a motive, and even the bad guys don't have a good motive. Like,
No.
I'm gonna bring up back to what I was saying earlier. So, the elites literally came back to Earth, and here's my question: why do they want to destroy it? So, I guess that gives Harlock motivation because Harlock's just mad. It's like, oh man, they're gonna destroy the Earth or something like that. But then Harlock later destroys the Earth with dark matter. It's like, why? There's a lot of hypocrisy with this whole movie and how everyone's acting.
Yeah, like I think the whole point in the original Captain Harlock is one, to fight the Genesis, and two, to actually get home. But there's no sort of like, oh, I'm gonna blow up the universe if I don't get my way.
But I think what's interesting with the Gaia Coalition again is that they're trying to hide the fact that the Earth is dead. But if their goal was to destroy it anyways, like, why hide it? Just say it's dead. It's like, nobody knows that it's still there, for the most part.
Like, besides the brother, does anyone actually remember any of the characters, like any of the villains in it?
I barely
Besides
remember.
this group. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The council people are really irrelevant. They're just the guys who give the older brother character the main motive, and that's it. Like, no one else really mattered.
I barely remember the brother, and then I think the sister's name was Nami or Nanami, something like that. Other than that, there was a very weak antagonist presence in the movie. It was more, I guess, like an internal struggle of Harlock, but then because Harlock wasn't like the person we were watching the movie through, it was a very like dim look at Harlock. Again, there was a lot of story decisions that I don't understand. Besides trying to fit it all in 2 hours, I don't understand why they did it.
Yeah, like, I don't know, for whatever this film, like, for 2013, besides sort of the mech designs, it kind of felt like Final Fantasy Advent Children, which is a lot older. Like, it's another 10 years before that. Whereas, like, it has a lot of cool set pieces, like the ship and the designs. And that the detail into that is absolutely amazing. I won't knock it for that. They're set pieces. That's kind of the problem. You don't feel, kind of just goes from one scene to another scene to another scene. You know, it brings back to Shonen Ouji. You know, they are kind of like NPCs. You know, if you punch one of the characters, they're going to end up in a different arena.
I think what's something weird that I noticed is like, so we're told that there's like 100 years of peace, like believing that the Earth's there. And it's weird why the bad guys just all of a sudden just now want to destroy it. And again, like, this is one of the biggest problems I think is with the film. Like, if the villain doesn't have a good motive, then we don't really have a really engaging story. Because the thing is, like, why would they hide the fact that's uninhabitable? Because they just said, oh, the Earth's uninhabitable, then no one would want to go there. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, who would want to loot something where nothing's there, you know?
Yeah, what was exactly the goal of blowing up the world for the villains?
Well, here's the thing. There's two different methods I could see for it to make sense. One of the villains could say they want to do the same thing Harlock wants to do and just restart creation. But no one said that. The other thing would be, it's like, they're blowing up the Earth because there could be, like, gold or, like, some stupid treasure that's in the center. That could have been more believable than what they showed in the movie.
Shonen, do you have anything to say about this?
I would be interested to see how this movie was advertised, because somebody brought up Broly earlier. The thing about Broly, I know a lot of people nitpick the story in Broly and how it like retroactively changed things and how it adapted minus and all that. But for the most part, I'm happy with Broly because I didn't go into Broly like, oh, this is going to be like the best story in the Dragon Ball. I was like, it's going to be an entertaining movie and it's not going to give me a headache. And that's what it was. If they had advertised this as just, hey, there's going to be lots of things go boom, boom, bam, bam, and then given it a simple, coherent story, this would have been a much better movie. But they tried to do both. They tried to do big animation and then also at the same time do like a deep story, and that I think ruined it. I think they should have just done like focus on the animation and do a very simple but coherent plot.
Yeah, I brought up Broly before we recorded, and the main thing that I think is significant is that I could probably bring someone to that movie despite them not watching Dragon Ball, and they would probably enjoy it more in this movie, despite this one being an original story where you wouldn't need context of Harlock, in my opinion.
Yeah, like at the time, and this was an international release, I have a feeling that one of the reasons why the film kind of failed is it was one trying to fit too much in as an introduction to Captain Harlock. Like you guys came in and you had no idea or opinion of Captain Harlock before this.
I had some opinions because I have seen material of Harlock. I brought it up in a different podcast, but as far as this interpretation, obviously, he's not the same character. That's why I'm saying it's a lot different.
Yeah. So, like, it's not exactly... Like, there's been other... He's done... You know, there's been more... there's been other Captain Harlock films in the 70s and 80s that did actually do a proper job, while it's the traditional animation style of the series that you're, you know, even as a newcomer, you're able to get in and able to understand it. In this, you're not really given a lot of you know, you can't really invest a lot in the characters because they're not really memorable. Whether it's scenes of dialogue or drama or tension, even with Captain Harlock, there's barely, like, you can't really sort of like, all right, Captain Harlock, kind of edgy. There's nothing really likable about some of the characters in this.
Yeah, I think if they played up the more pirate aspect and just made them like worse, like be a lot ruder, a lot like tougher, you know, like real pirates, maybe it would have been more memorable, you know?
Yeah, like Captain Harlock kind of came off as that annoying guy in a D&D game.
Yeah, he didn't come off enough as intimidating with me. Like, I wish he was a little bit more scary, in all honesty, because even that would give him something for me to actually like.
I just thought he was like edgy for the sake of being edgy. And again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. It was confusing with his crew because you get this piece about, oh, we'll only accept you if when we ask you that question, you say freedom. But then when the main character was talking to the engineer guy, the like goofy one, I forget their conversation exactly, but he was basically just like, oh, we all have a record, blah, 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 which gave me the impression, oh, we're all here so we don't have to go to jail, which is like, it basically made it so I just didn't care about any of the characters except for Harlock, and then maybe not the alien, but the girl. But then the girl, I felt like was a kind of one-dimensional character.
Yeah,
like, I think the girl is one-dimensional, but she would have been
alien.
A better MC than the MC we got. Because I feel like if she was the main character, at least she could actually give more backstory on Harlock's crew, but with the spy character, we don't know anything about his crew at all.
And he was
there's no way to flesh him out.
Yeah, he's the best way to describe it. Actually, the film kind of it's a reflection of that year. If you think about it, it came out in 2013. And what was big in 2013?
I don't know. Was Transformers still a thing back then? The Michael Bay movies?
Oh, wait. I think Avatar was out at the time, because I know James Cameron actually praised this movie a lot.
Yeah, that was, and he, again, just like, you know, all of us agreed, the production, the design was, you know, he praised that. didn't praise anything else about it.
Well, the funny thing is, like, at least with Avatar, despite how dumb the story is, at least you can follow it. This thing you
Yeah.
really can't, as much as you want to. It's literally similar stories, literally. The only difference is the plot device that's being used. Like, Harlock's trying to use time travel to fix things versus with James Cameron's Avatar, it's just more of like peaceful protesting, I guess. I don't know. Well, not really peaceful protesting. Not safe for work YouTube. Bad genocide, I guess. I don't know.
We're not on YouTube, man. This is on iTunes.
Well, I forget that sometimes. I'm a YouTuber, you know? That's just me.
But yeah, so like the thing is 2013 is when emo music was kind of in its peak.
That is true. That also is happening at the time.
And you know, you could say, oh, that doesn't really reflect it. Well, look at the Devil May Cry remake, DMC.
Oh yeah, that looked awful.
Those are like, that's kind of, I think, what they were kind of trying to get through, you know, at the time. And not saying like, listen, maybe 5 years before that, when emo music was just getting popular, we had, you know, Sephiroth in Spirits Within.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it was that kind of, that era when it was like starting to get popular. And 2013 was kind of, it was the peak. You know, just was the recession was starting to happen. A lot of people, you know, teenagers were being angsty teenagers, Rage Against the Machine.
I think what surprised me most was how well this film did in Italy, because currently it's still the most successful Japanese film ever screened in Italy.
Oh, wow.
So this is what Italy has from like Japanese culture just exploded there for some reason.
Well, I think the reason behind that is actually Captain Harlock was shown over in Italy.
That could make sense. Like, there could have been nostalgia factors for that. So that does make sense if it did better there for that reason.
Like, a lot of mainland European countries, they actually get anime. In the old days, they were able to get anime a lot easier than the, you know, English-speaking countries.
Mm.
Yeah, because I think with English-speaking countries, there's a lot of monopolization that has been going on currently, which is
Yeah, with all the licensing.
Like, there's only like 3 companies I can name off the top of the hand that dub anime, and that's it.
I can literally just name you Funimation. That's it. That's all I can tell you.
I know.
Funimation,
that's how sad it is.
ADV, Bang Zoom.
Yeah, those are literally the only 3 besides Funimation. Well, Funimation's there.
There used to be more. A lot of them kind of went bankrupt years ago.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question. Was the copy you sent me, the dub you sent me, was this like the official dub?
Yeah, that's the official dub.
Yeah, there's
Now,
only
was
one
this
dub of this
Funimation,
movie.
or was this who was in charge of the dub?
Let me check.
I think it was actually Funimation.
Because that's another thing is that the animation and everything visually about the movie was gorgeous, but then the dub and how they matched the dialogue to the actual like mouth expressions. I'm making up a word here, but you know what I mean. It was so
looked really
disengaging.
In my opinion, it looked pretty bad with the mouth laps but then again, CG, it's kind of more difficult to fix that.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, but still, you couldn't help but notice it.
Yeah, I've noticed it, like, several scenes. It just threw me off. It's like, they're supposed to be speaking there. It's like, there's nothing there. But it was like, done by Funimation.
It was like they were saying, like, completely different words. Like, sometimes it was, like, a little bit off, and you're just like, whatever. And then sometimes, like, the person was saying, like, something completely different. Like, it didn't match at all.
But yeah, David Matragna, the guy who voices Shoto Todoroki in My Hero, he voiced Harlock, actually. And I think his performance was pretty meh, honestly. I'm not gonna lie.
It was that bad. It wasn't my favorite, like, dub performance, but his voice actually stood out to me as opposed to like
The only
maybe
reason it stood out to me is because one, he's Captain Harlock, and two, he's like, I'm saying he was probably the best person, and that's kind of bad.
yeah.
Like if you think about that comparison, because if I don't really like the main character, technically, well, he's not the main character, but the main focus of the movie, then there's something going on there.
I didn't like the brothers, the like military commander, the brothers dub performance. I thought he was like, if Harlock's dub actor was trying to do like a Batman impression from the Dark Knight movies.
Yeah, that's how it felt like.
It sounded like he was trying to one up him and be like, "Oh, so this is your Batman? Well, this is my Batman."
I know, which is kind of funny now thinking about it.
It was like, why?
So is Captain Harlock edgy Batman?
That's what it sounded like. And then the commander sounded like he had his own thing, but then he heard Harlock's voice actor and he had to like one up him for
No, I'm edgy Batman
contest.
now.
It was a strange movie.
Here's so the question, first question we have to ask ourselves: was it worth the budget?
I think again, I would have had to like been a fan at the time and like paid attention to it when they were like advertising it, but depending on how they pushed it, I think
I'm going to say no, because here's the thing. The budget was between 30 million, 25 million. Overall, it only made like 19 million.
What was the budget?
25 to 30 million. So there's a net loss there for sure. If you just counted advertising for Japan, if it wasn't advertised elsewhere.
No, they definitely lost.
And as far as how it looks, I think if this came out maybe like when Shrek was out or something, it would have been more impressive. But I think when the time it came out, even though
I know, but your only competitor during the time of Shrek would have been Spirits Within.
That is true, but I still think it would have been done better in that time period, though.
Yeah, that's true. There would have been a lot of competition.
Yeah, I don't think the budget was worth it, only because animation aside, everything else was kind of doo-doo.
Well,
yeah.
I think, like I said, I think the music was good. Like, that's one thing I can actually give it. Because there was impact with the scenes, despite the obnoxious, like, voice acting. I don't know if it's any better in the Japanese version, in all honesty, because I only watched dubbed for this. But I think I'm just gonna bring this up. If this was a video game, this would have been totally passable, and I think it would have made its money back. Be 100% honest.
Yeah,
yes, but in the video game, you were able to skip the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
And my thing is, like, you could have easily made like a pirate type of themed game, because at the time I think Assassin's Creed was still going on, and I don't remember when Black Flag came out. But this came out before Black Flag, and it was like a space raiding pirate game. That would have been really fun.
No, I have a feeling this would have done well. The Skyrim came out 2011, so this would have come out 2 years after that. Open world, sort of like this. I think around this time was when open world was like the hot topic in any video game. If that was what you were pushing on your game, it was going to get pushed by all the big magazines.
Yeah. So Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out in 2013. If this thing was competing against this, I think it would have outperformed it, because the cutscenes would have looked really good, and you would have similar themes, obviously, because they're both pirate games, with differences. This one being space, which would give it an edge on it, I think. It would still cost a lot of money, though. I'm gonna check how much Black Flag actually costs to produce real quick.
Actually, now that I think about it, I think When did the current generation of consoles start? Was it right around then? Because I remember, I think when Black Flag came out was when the new consoles came out, roughly, and so you
No,
could get
the
no, am I
original.
wrong?
I don't think so because I believe Assassin's Creed 3 came first. Black Flag was 4. I'm pretty
Assassin's
sure.
Creed 3 came first.
Yeah,
So then,
because I believe. Well, I have to think about it. Most of the Assassin's Creed franchise started with the 360. I think I'm
it
pretty
did,
sure.
yes.
So I'm assuming we're pretty far in actually. Honestly,
No, we are. My thing was this: if this was coming out roughly when the new generation of consoles was coming out, I think this would have been an excellent uh day one console game because the story is meh like any other like day one console game, but it would have been a great way to flex the new generation of graphics.
Yeah, I was checking the budget. So the actual budget for Black Flag was estimated around 100 million. So
Oh wow.
that's literally a fraction of it. It would still been expensive for sure, but
That's
I still
insane.
think it would have been worth it in my opinion,
Oh,
even if
for
it
sure.
came out like a few years later. Because game
What if
development takes a long time. Even if it was like towards like the end of the Xbox 360 era, if they had the space, like writing elements, because this would have been before. What's that one space planet travel game that came out? That bombed really bad.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, No Man's Sky. That's what it is. Because this would have
Was
came
it
out
that long
before that.
ago?
No, I'm saying this would have came before that. That would have
Yeah.
made No Man's Sky actually have to try harder, even if it was a linear story, in my opinion.
What if?
It is a what if situation, honestly. But yeah, does anyone else have other opinions of how you think you could have made this movie better?
Uh, I think they were trying to fit in too much information. So instead of like doing these numerous flashbacks, they could have broken it up into 2 films and spread it across that.
Yeah, I could see it working better as 2 films, like do a prequel-esque thing, maybe explain who Harlock was, and then do the second film and be like 100 years later or something like that.
Yeah, I did enjoy the Easter egg in the beginning of the film. You know the code that Harlock puts in for the computer?
Mm-hmm.
That's reference to the other work from. This is actually more well known actually in the West. So it's referencing Galaxy Express 999, which even if you don't, if you're not an anime fan, you wouldn't know it from. Have you ever seen the Daft Punk video?
Oh, okay.
That's where that's based off of.
Oh, that's funny.
So like that was like a nice little Easter egg, but I don't think there was enough to catch any of the old school fans, and I think there was just too much information to digest in a film, in a 2-hour film. Like the amount of information that they were trying to express in a 2-hour film that could have filled like 3 or 4 books.
I think maybe what they could have done is, in terms of simplifying the plot, again, just to use Broly as an example, rather than try and like be serious about the plot, simplify it and then kind of make it like a comedy, which I don't think would like not like a comedy outright, because I think the the theme of Captain Harlock isn't meant to be a comedy, but like make it a little more comedic so that you don't take the story like as seriously and you can be kind of a little less uptight with your criticism, because then you could at least like laugh about it.
Yeah, like I think a similar way to like Astro Boy when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
Because the CG, then the CG one also came out around that year. The Astro Boy CG film with Nicolas Cage. Even the fact that Nicolas Cage is in the film.
Oh god.
Honestly, I watched that movie and I thought that movie was better than this one.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, I'm not even joking.
Oh, yeah, that film
Holds
came
up
out.
alright.
It came out in 2009. So Astro Boy came out before this film.
Dang, that's bad.
Jesus.
And that actually made a profit. Made a profit of 65 million.
Damn.
And I had a budget of 42 million. So that's still more profit than this Captain Harlock franchise did. And I think the other the Harlock franchises, they all made profit. They all did exceptionally well.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
The final question that I'd give you guys is, would you recommend the film?
No.
I would say maybe if you're watching it like using a substance, but other than that, no.
Yeah, like the only way that I'd actually recommend it is if you're a huge fan of Shinji Aramaki. Like, I know he does fantastic work with Appleseed and that type of work, but anything sort of outside his own creations, he kind of royally screws it up. So I definitely wouldn't recommend it. Maybe recommend it to see what not to do. But that's pretty much like it's outsold in only 2 countries, and none of them were actually in Japan or America. It was in Italy and in France, which I know, Captain Harlock was shown over there. But even for the diehard fans, like, you'll have people that, like, their parents, like, they would have loved to see it because they saw the original when they were kids.
Honestly, I don't know about that. Like, maybe? But
I get the feeling that this was kind of like a slap in the face to anybody that.
Yeah, I know. Like,
series.
That's what a lot of things, like even the Astro Boy remake, or any of this type of stuff, it's trying to do a lot of homages. Mm-hmm. They do like references to other work, and with this, it tried, but it just it didn't really satisfy enough for newcomers, and it didn't really satisfy enough for the old school people that are fans of the franchise. So, burn it, piss on the ashes. It's kind of just forgettable.
Yeah. I think, like I said, the format of this movie was put in is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to finish off this episode, you guys want to plug your channels?
Yeah, I guess I can. So
yeah, go ahead.
I have a main channel, What If Universe. I also have a second channel, What If Universe's Extended Universe, where I do my own podcast and throw a bunch of other junk on there.
Excellent. So and this is Geek Era Podcast, and we are signing off.
Do that. Sure.
I have my YouTube channel, Shonen Ouji, where I usually talk about One Piece discussion videos, One Piece analysis videos. I do other shonen manga and anime. Today I came out with my Dr. Stone video, why you should read the Dr. Stone manga. So if you have time later, go ahead and check that out.
Hey, do you like comedy? Do you like when people sometimes talk about what they jack off to? Well, maybe you should listen to Dead Rat Pizza. Dead Rat Pizza is a podcast where you can listen to comedy and things that we jack off to. Sometimes we talk about video games. Sometimes I have my friend Ryan on here. Say hi, Ryan.
No.
But we're always talking about what we jack off to, because that's Dead Rat Pizza. Dead Rat Pizza is a podcast on the internet. You can go to deadratpizza.com and download your dead pizza rats. You could go to iTunes, you could go to Spotify. Sometimes we drink beers, sometimes we do shots, but we always jerk off our dicks.
Yep.
And we tell you what we jerked our dicks off to, because we're the Dead Rat Pizza Podcast. Check us out at deadratpizza.com.